Hello, hello, hello. Welcome in, everyone. Thank you so much, as always, for joining us right here, Fantasy Life on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam, Ronis with you on this Wednesday. Yep, all day, Adam. Wednesday. Look at that. I knew it. I just wanted to double check, just in case.
You did not. You had to quickly look down at your phone. This day is it Wednesday,
got my calendar
Thursday?
Up on my...
Yeah.
Wednesday? Question mark. I've got my calendar up on my laptop right now, just to be sure. You know, we don't want to say it's Thursday because then that means we're one day closer to the weekend and one day closer to these conference championship games. But it's okay. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us. We've got a great show planned out for you, as always. A few more offensive coordinator hirings that we're going to talk about here off the top. My top 36 wide receivers, Adam, 36. I don't know. That was just the number that was given to me. So my top 36 wide receivers out at fantasylife.com wrote an article about that. It's not difficult, but it was something where I know I'm going to look back at that article in even 2 months and I'm going to say, yeah, I'm changing this whole thing up. Even a couple weeks, I'll probably change it up. But top 36 wide receivers. Yeah, it's a fun assignment.
Yeah, I think over the next month or two, it could stay similar. Maybe not until free agency. Then you'll see movement. And we know, like, especially right before the season, the rankings change consistently. You know, as you do drafts, you see what you do when you're on the clock and you move players up, move players down. So, and there will be people, again, I don't think the majority, but there will be people doing best balls right after the Super Bowl in March and April, especially those that only play fantasy football, don't get into fantasy baseball, basketball, maybe not even follow those sports a lot, and they just consume fantasy football all year round. You know, there will be people jumping into drafts, so it is good to kind of get a head start and look at the rankings, see what the layout is, and obviously there will be movement throughout the offseason.
And free agency begins 4 p.m. Eastern on March 11th. So we've got a little bit of time. Just rest and relax, recover from all of your winnings, hopefully, everyone listening here. And that's what we're going to get into. But again, that article is live at fantasylife.com, so you can go and check it out. We're going to start breaking down everything that you need to know for these games this weekend. But let's get started with some of the news that we got just last night, actually. The Chargers. So my first thing that I wrote in the rundown, Adam, was that Mike McDaniel took his name out of the running for, I think it was one of the Commanders gigs or something like that, and people are like, okay, what does this mean? Well, we kind of know what it means. It looks like that the Chargers are expected to hire Mike McDaniel as their new offensive coordinator. I read this morning that maybe his name is still floating around for head coaching jobs, but until, this gets finalized, that could still happen. But according to Adam Schefter last night, it looks like he had multiple head coaching and offensive coordinator positions, openings or whatever for him to go and interview for, but he got fired last week from the Miami Dolphins. So it looks like the Chargers get a new OC. I actually like this hire. He was someone where we've talked about Mike McDaniel before, saying maybe not as good of a head coach as he could be as a coordinator. And offensively, us in fantasy are always going to be the ones that look towards those guys to see where they end up landing. I thought that maybe, we talked about him a couple days ago, maybe he would land with the Tennessee Titans. But going over to the Chargers, that's a good spot for him.
No, it definitely is. And we know that there's pieces on the Chargers offense, and, they've had problems in the postseason the last 2 years with just one touchdown. Now, we know this year offensive line was a major issue, losing both their tackles, but we know that Herbert has the talent now. We have to see him do it in the postseason, right? That's how these quarterbacks are measured, and it hasn't been good for him. There's talent at the wide receiver position. There's Omarion Hampton out of the backfield. So, yeah, this is a good landing spot. He has a lot of pieces here to work with. So I think you could understand why it looked like he had a lot of people in pursuit, and also probably turned down a head coaching job with a bad team to take this, understanding, hey, if I go here, have a great year, there'll be more head coaching spots that open up. Maybe it's a better spot next year.
Yeah, exactly. I think this was a really good spot for him, because Harbaugh has been looking for, not for long, but for a new offensive coordinator since they fired Greg Roman. That was last Tuesday or something like that. And they lost that playoff game to New England that ended their season 16-3. And we saw it throughout the season, but Justin Herbert, whether you want, and there were a ton of injuries on that offensive line, that season felt like it was really lost when they lost both those tackles. But he was getting hit a lot in that game, and there was really nothing he could do. And I know that, listen, Justin Herbert has talent. We've seen it before. He's got arm talent. He's built like his quarterback that's supposed to be winning. But he's not, especially in the playoffs. We've seen some of his worst games and worst appearances in these playoffs. So he's trying to get that turned around, because that just becomes a mental block. We asked a couple days ago, when is Josh Allen going to get to a Super Bowl? When is Lamar Jackson going to get to a Super Bowl? It's the same question with Justin Herbert, and just saying, when are you going to, win some of these really important games? And so I think the way that this is going to look, McDaniel he's got a good foundation. I know people might look at him as a head coach and say, that just wasn't good, but he is exciting and he is creative. That's the one thing I'm excited about with McDaniel in this offense, is seeing how he can be an innovator, maybe get back to his roots, maybe get a little bit more creative, because you were a little bit capped probably with the Dolphins with how Tua Tagovailoa was as a quarterback. So hopefully this means we can draft a little bit more Chargers in 2026, because Ladd McConkey, who we mentioned I think yesterday, was probably one of the worst, he was one of the biggest busts of 2025. We can say that, because he was going in the second round. And it was awful. I think he finished as the wide receiver 35. So I guess it could have been worse. But when we're talking about ADP, I know, you're right. When we're talking about ADPs and everything, round 2 to wide receiver 35 finish, it was awful.
Yeah, it was awful down the stretch. That was the biggest problem, because there was a period where it looked like he was turning it around and becoming that one again, starting with October 5th against Washington. He had 5 for 39 and a touchdown. He scored the next week. Then he had 9 for 67, 6 for 88 and a touchdown, 4 for 56, 4 for 107 and a touchdown. You felt good, but then it just cratered. 3 for 13, 4 for 39 and a touchdown, 1 for 12, 2 for 20, 4 for 43 and a touchdown, and 1 for 31. So if you stuck with him down the stretch and continued to play him, he really sunk you, because you weren't getting much. So it was pretty bad. And look, to be fair, though, McDaniel's offense in Miami was not good this year, but no. I think there were other factors. I mean, Tua being the big one, because they were 25th in points, I believe, this year. So it wasn't great, but there's a lot of weapons to work with here. And I think we can agree that Herbert is a better quarterback than Tua. The key with Herbert, obviously, is, you mentioned it, it's the postseason, right?
Yeah.
In the big spotlight, that's when he has not come through, and that's when quarterbacks are measured. He's been fine in the regular season. I mean, just 2 years ago, he had 3 interceptions in the regular season. Then he had, 4 in that playoff game? And then even this year, 26 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, so more interceptions, but we know he can run too. A lot of that might have been out of necessity because of how bad the offensive line was, that he was forced to run a lot. But he had 498 rushing yards during the season and 2 rushing touchdowns. So it's been fine during the regular season, but you might see maybe potentially a bigger boost now with a more creative offense. And again, the weapons are there for him, and he's got a solid running back too, to Marion Hampton, who that's a guy that I think is going to rise now with this news.
Yeah, I think so too. And like I said, they've got pieces on this team. This could be a team where we're talking right now in January, and then we look at the ADPs come August, and they're one of the biggest risers of a team that you look at all the pieces with the running backs, right? You've got Amari and Hampton. Even the tight ends, Aronde Gadsden was someone we talked about a lot, and we said, hey, this is a sleeper pick that you can go and get and pick up off the waiver wire. So I'm just most excited for, and probably the biggest question for the Chargers is what McDaniel can do with a quarterback like Justin Herbert, who has what feels like limitless athletic skills. Take out everything that we've seen in the postseason. This is such a change from what he had in Tua Tagovailoa going to Justin Herbert. And so I'm really excited to see what he can do for that, for him and for that team. So again, the landscape changes, just changing teams, getting out of Miami, I think was kind of important. And the way he left too, Adam, we have to remember that we thought he was staying because he said he was going to be part of the GM search. And so I don't know if this was something that he also saw coming or maybe not, but it was a weird parting between them. And I think just like we talk about with players, sometimes with coaches, you're not as good as you could be if you're a head coach. Some of these coaches are just better as offensive coordinators, as coordinators in general. So that's what I'm excited for. But this team, again, a lot of good pieces. Omarion Hampton's going to be expensive. I put Ladd McConkey right in my rankings at wide receiver 19. He feels like someone that could rise. This was before this news broke. I had already filed it, but I had him originally in my top 36 wide receivers article, live at fantasylife.com. Wide receiver, 19 to start things off.
Was it, going through the receivers, was it one of those where you get to a certain point, you're like, really, I don't like any of these guys? Did it feel like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how it was.
Seems about right.
Doing weekly rankings this year.
Because it was, it's around Zay Flowers, Jalen Waddle, Jamison Williams, T. Higgins. To be honest, if I had this news yesterday, he might have snuck in, he might have moved up to 16. That's where I have Teteroa McMillan. But yeah, that's kind of where the fall needed to stop, I think.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense.
Why? You think it's too high?
No, the problem with them is that they just have so many weapons, right? That was the biggest thing. If you were looking at Gadsden this year and you had him and it looked like he was breaking out, the biggest problem was, they have Quentin Johnston, they have Ladd McConkey, you still had Keenan Allen there. So that was the problem, is you just didn't know on a given week who was going to be the go-to guy. They could spread it around. And, that was an issue.
Yeah, I think that's why, I didn't like any of the guys going forward, so I just said, Ladd McConkey, you're gonna go right here. But again, those are gonna change as the offseason progresses. But a big hire, I think, for Harbaugh for sure. But Mike McDaniel, good hire for him as the new offensive coordinator for the Chargers. And they just have to get going in that division, right? I mean, this was a down year for the Chiefs. The Raiders have been bad, so the Chargers probably looked at this as a good opportunity with the Chiefs out. Broncos obviously had a great regular season. They're still in it for the conference championships. The Raiders might be getting Fernando Mendoza, might be going for a new quarterback. The Chiefs have hired Eric Bieniemy as their new, I do in air quotes, offensive coordinator, bringing him back. So it was kind of a down year or a down-ish year for the AFC West. So they're probably looking around saying, that was our time. Let's try and do it now. It'll be fun. It'll be good.
Look, the talent is there. Look, I was actually surprised that the Chargers got in the playoffs. I thought they were in trouble for a bit because of the injuries, and then they finished the season, I think, they had a nice streak, and then they lost their last two games and lost going into the playoffs, but they won 11 games, could have won the division. They had won a couple more games, so that's kind of been the case with the Chargers, right? The talent's always there, and it feels like something always goes wrong for them at some point, whether it's injuries or a bad performance by Herbert. Just feels like something always goes wrong for that team.
Do you think, and then we'll move on from the Chargers, do you think that they bring in a different running back to pair with Omarion Hampton, or do you think that, because Najee Harris was just a one-year deal, and we know that did not work out how they planned it, starting in July with the 4th of July fireworks mishap and then ending with the season-ending injury. But, I was looking through some of the quotes that Harbaugh said, and he was talking about how he believes in building a reliable run game, and that's why he initially hired Greg Roman, because that's how we talked about this offense before. It was, they're going to get the run game going and then everything else will fall into place, but that never really came together. That promise that this dominant run game is going to happen never really happened. So when I look at McDaniel, his offense ranked 11th in EPA per designed rush according to True Media, third in that metric from 2022 to 2023. So I'm curious if you think that they're going to bring someone in, or if Omarion Hampton could really just be that one guy for them.
I think it'll be the one guy.
I love that.
You have Vidal too, who again was inconsistent. We saw like a huge game, then a bad game, but I think it's going to be Hampton as the main back.
That means middle of round 2. What 1-2 turn?
He might even. Yeah,
he's going to go. So. He's going to be so expensive. He was always expensive though. He never really got an ADP. He never really got his ADP pushed back. So I'm so excited to draft. Should we do a draft right after the Super Bowl that Monday? Should we just hop into one on Underdog? No?
Well, we can if you want.
Come on. Wouldn't that be fun? Just being like, what the heck is, I don't know what's happening
look back on it in a couple months and be like, what the hell were we thinking?
Exactly. And some of these guys won't even, they're going to change teams at some point. So, yeah, I think we should do that. That could be fun. Again, the Chargers hiring Mike McDaniel as their new offensive coordinator. The last one just off the top, because I saw this morning and just wanted to bring it up because, you know, the international games are something that sometimes us Pacific Coast people sleep through. The West Coast people sleep through. But Patriots owner Robert Kraft is pushing for an 18-game schedule, and then he said an international game for every team. Did you see that this morning?
Yeah.
18 games is already... how is that going to get approved? The players hated 17.
It doesn't matter. It's all about money, right?
That's
and
true.
TV.
They don't care about them.
They'll figure out a way. But, yeah, I think it's too much. We're seeing a ton of injuries late in the season. We saw, at least this year... I mean, Week 18 was terrible this year. And I know it's not going to be like that every year. There'll be some seasons where there's more meaningful games. But Week 18 was an absolutely atrocious week this year. There was, a handful of games that meant something? But it was bad football. If you watched Week 18, it was terrible games. Mm-hmm. You had, Panthers, Bucks meant something. And even that game was ugly. Seahawks, 49ers. Which meant something, and it was 13-3. But, yeah, it was a lot of ugly football. Packers played nobody.
Yeah. The Saints-Falcons, because that was going to be the decider of the Panthers-Bucks, right?
The Chargers set everyone when the Broncos needed it. It was 19-3. Chiefs-Raiders was ugly, 14-12. The Rams needed the game against the Cardinals. Did put up 37-1. Patriots stomped the Dolphins, who had nothing to play for. Eagles could have gotten the 2 seed. Clearly, in hindsight, it didn't matter. They were doomed to lose anyway.
They were probably going to lose.
But they lost. The Ravens-Steelers was a very good game. That was the one game, that Sunday night game, one of the best games. Obviously, everything on the line for both teams. So, but that was, winner gets in, loser goes home. So we really didn't. That was the only game that had those implications that week.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because the Panthers one, again, Panthers-Bucks was one we had to wait for the Falcons, because the Falcons could play spoiler, and they ended up playing spoiler.
It was a really bad Week 18, and it doesn't mean that's the case next year. You might get a situation where you have a lot more meaningful games, but adding another week, I think even diehard football fans would say no. Like, we've already extended the schedule. There's been issues. There's a lot of injuries. It's a very physical game. You add another game, we're going to get more injuries. So I think it was fine at 16. You want to add another one? You got 17? Okay, cool. But making it 18, like, when are we going to stop? Are we going to have a 30-game schedule?
They're going to go 20
years?
20. Actually, year-round, Adam. Year-round football. That's probably what they're pushing for, right? Come on.
Yeah, why not? I mean, we got advanced technology. These guys will never get hurt anymore.
Yeah, exactly. The NFL Players Association, so the agreement for the 17th regular season game that was added was part of their 2020 CBA. So if people start looking into this, they began and approved that expansion to begin in 2021. But this current agreement runs through 2030. So it's going to be really interesting if owners really do push to do this when the negotiations for an 18-game season, regular season starts. And the international stuff is interesting too, because they already had a record 7 games in 2025 for the international games, and I think those are cool. But wow, having one for every team, that would be. What if it's Cowboys Seahawks? Can we go together? Where could it be? Ooh, that would be fun. Then we could do like a whole food tour. Oh my gosh, this is perfect.
A week, the whole show.
Yes.
Each show for the week.
And then we get to go eat all the food, and then we could record it. That's perfect. That's basically all that we talk about now anyways. And coffee. I'll bring the good people wherever we go, Folgers coffee, and show it to them. It'll be perfect.
No Folgers. No, we're not doing that. Not on the road.
Oh, my gosh. Just something I wanted to bring up with Robert Kraft again, pushing for the 18-game schedule. We'll see if that ever gets done here.
It does extend the fantasy season, right? You add another game.
Yeah, because then you go one more week.
Yeah,
for sure.
So I guess that would help. Less luck, but no, I don't think most people would like it. Even if you're like the biggest football fan, I don't think you would agree to add another game.
We'll see. It's not up to, they haven't called us, Adam. They haven't said,
look,
we should
once
figure
it's
out...
brought up, once they mention it, it's happening. It's going to happen.
No, for sure. Well, they've been talking about this for 2 years. It hasn't been anything new. And Robert Kraft, if you guys go and watch that, there's articles and quotes and videos, but he was very adamant that 18 games. It's not a question about if it happens, it's when. And so that's going to be the big thing, and what the pushback is going to look like, all of that. So keep that in the back of your minds, fantasy commissioners, because you might have to be changing the rules a little bit there. We're going to continue on going through the biggest questions for this weekend for the Broncos, the Patriots, the Seahawks, and the Rams. What could these teams' X factors be to winning this weekend as well? We're going to break it down here next. Fantasy Life with you right here on this Wednesday. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam, Ronis, breaking down everything you need to know about the conference championship games. If anyone is online right now, though, and looking at the updates, Adam, from this Bills press conference, it's their GM, Brandon Beane, it's their owner. Some of the things that they're saying right now is insane, specifically about Keon Coleman. So we can just hit on this really fast since it's happening in real time. But their owner was asked about drafting Keon Coleman, and he said that was never Brandon Beane's top choice in that situation. Quote, "That was Brandon being a team player. He's taken heat over it. I'm here to tell you the true story." Mind you, Keon Coleman's still on the team. Like, this is insane what's happening here with the Bills and what's unraveling. Nuts.
It really is. There are some great quotes. You know, it makes me feel good as a Cowboys fan that we're not the only team being a comedy for others.
Oh, look, he even said, "Can I interrupt? I'll address the Keon situation. The coaching staff pushed to draft Keon." They are not claiming that they had any part in drafting Keon Coleman. What was that now? 2 years ago? That is this is bad. This feels bad. They better win.
It really is. I mean, it's mind-boggling what's happening here, because they said also the decision was based on the post-game in the locker room. Meanwhile, the players came out and supported McDermott.
Yes, so all those players love McDermott.
Yeah, look, that's when you don't win in the NFL, some drastic changes can happen, especially, and maybe it's because the narrative was, oh, this was the path for Josh Allen to get there with no Mahomes, Burrow. It just got pounded over people's heads. But, I mean, look, they had flaws as a team. They turned it over 5 times, okay?
For sure.
You're just not winning playoff games when you turn it over 5 times. It's so difficult. And the fact that they were still in position to win is a testament to, you know, how they battled and stayed in it, and how, you know, they defensively didn't let Denver pull away. But yeah, there's so many things you could point to in that game. But when you turn it over 5 times, it's just really difficult to win in the NFL in the regular season. And in the postseason, when you're playing better teams, it's just almost impossible.
Look, Pagula was asked, that's their owner, was asked about Josh Allen sobbing, in the locker room after that loss. The quote was, "He had given everything he had to try to win this game, and so did every other player on the team. I know we can do better. I know we will get better." So we'll see. These are really interesting quotes. If you guys are online right now, you can go check them out over there on X, because we've got great people in that room live tweeting, reporting, whatever you want to say. But they better be. You have to think that next year, see, that's why I say that's going to be a really tough job. Like, I know that people said maybe Harbaugh should have waited for a week to try and get that job, or maybe anyone else, Kevin Stefanski, but when I look at that position and that head coach opening, while it is a great spot because you get to work with Josh Allen, I think it's also going to be one of the, if not the biggest head coach hirings that has the most at stake, because this team, it sounds like they feel like they're ready to win, that they just hit a playoff wall and that a new head coach is going to push them through it. That's going to come with a lot of, there's going to be a lot put on that job.
Well, that's why the Giants were trying to wrap that up quickly. I think they didn't want to leave it to get to that point. And, you know, when you're Harbaugh, you don't know if Buffalo's going to win or lose. They win, then it's another week. So it was a tough spot. And, you know, that's why the Giants were pushing to get that done. And Harbaugh did extend it for a bit. Remember,
he did. It was a couple days. You were sitting here because you don't like the Giants. You were like,
let me get past Sunday. Let me see. Or Saturday. That's when Buffalo played Denver. But then even though the decision wasn't made till Monday too, because even if they lose, you don't know if they're going to get rid of McDermott either. So, the timing of all this is really important here. And I wonder if you asked Harbaugh, like, secretly, hey, if you knew the Buffalo job was open, would you have preferred that? I wonder what he would have said.
I would love to know that answer. I would just love to know that answer for him and Stefanski, to be totally honest with you, because Stefanski, I don't know if that's the way they would have gone, but if we're talking about head coach openings and then coaches on the market, those were some of the top two guys. Again, I think Tomlin would have been right up there if he did say that he was going to coach in 2026, but he's been adamant that he's not coaching. So yeah, I would love to know that answer. I think you should text him and ask.
All right,
Say,
I will.
hey,
Give me a second.
Yeah, just text me. Friend of the show, obviously, listens all the time. But I do want to know the answer to that question.
Well,
so again,
wait, did you see this? So the crazy
What?
part was, as Bean was answering a question about Coleman, Pagula interrupted. He said, "Can I interrupt? I'll address the Keon
What?
situation." The coaching staff pushed to draft Keon.
I don't know. This is weird. It's like a bad breakup, where you're just like, okay, we get it. It's you didn't get what you wanted and you believe it was someone else's fault entirely. I just don't get the Bean situation. And maybe this is them trying to obviously show their support for him. He got a promotion yesterday. He's not only just their GM, he got a promotion. So this is just it's a bad breakup, Adam. They're just trying to say what happened, and we'll see if it works.
Yeah, this is wild. Like he said, the
not good.
decision to bring in a new coach was based on the results of the game in Denver, and he said that the Bills lost because of a bad call. Damn, it's like sometimes they're gonna, after this is done, they're gonna go back and someone's gonna say, "Hey, look at all these things. Do you realize what you said?" Like you have time to plan this stuff out. Like how are you not on the same page and coherent with your answers? Like, come on, lie better, guys. Come on. I need to train these guys in how to lie.
Yeah. No. Okay. No. Well.
Why not?
No. I don't know. Maybe this is just. This is just bad. We'll keep going through this because it just feels like one of those episodes of TV where you can't stop watching. You're like, oh my gosh, could this get any worse? Maybe it could. So we'll keep an eye on the Bills press conference right now because that is just absolutely nuts. But we do have to keep an eye also on the weekend and what our expectations are going to be for these teams heading into the conference championships. And so we've talked about these teams a lot. We know their strengths, we know their weaknesses. But Adam, if we really are looking at just breaking down some of these games, I think we want to start with the Denver Broncos and the New England Patriots. What's Denver's X factor right now? Like if Denver was going to, and I don't want to say do the impossible because this can be done. I mean, playing at Mile High is tough. If you look at the history with the Patriots traveling to Denver, it's not necessarily good. And I know you can wipe that history off the board. A lot of people are saying because it's Jarrett Stidham starting. So if you were looking at the Broncos and you said they are going to upset the Patriots, who's their X factor, or what, I guess, would be their X factor to do that?
I think one key is disrupting Drake May, right? We've seen him get sacked actually a lot throughout the season and in the playoffs. I think he was sacked 5 times last week, right?
Yeah.
So, you got Stidham at quarterback who's more than likely not going to put up 30 points. Certainly possible. Would be a big surprise. We've seen some things, but I think they got to create pressure on May and force some turnovers, especially if you can get a defensive touchdown or shift the field position battle, early in the game, get a turnover and, start inside the New England 30 where you're in field goal range, you ease the pressure. So I think getting some turnovers, putting pressure on Drake May, you're going to have to rely a little bit more on the defense. And let's be fair here, okay? As good as the Denver defense has been, and we talked about this last week leading up to the game against Buffalo, this defense has not really played that well down the stretch, especially at home. They gave up 26 at home to Green Bay. They gave up 34 to Jacksonville. I'm not going to count the Chargers in Week 18 as we talked about where they sat everyone. So they've been giving up some points at home. And then even last week, Buffalo, even with all the turnovers, Buffalo still put up 30. So this defense has been giving up some points at home. And, New England, well, it was an ugly game for New England last week offensively. I think the weather played a factor, playing the Texans defense, but they can put up points. Drake May will take shots downfield. So I do think they have to disrupt Drake May and try and force a turnover to make it easier on Stidham.
Were you looking at my notes beforehand? That's exactly
No.
what I wrote. That's why, we're the same person, BFFs, because I wrote the exact same thing where I do think, we can obviously talk about the Broncos run game and maybe if Marvin Mims is going to step up.
Their
but at
run
the end
game has been bad.
horrible. That's what I'm saying. I don't think the X factor could be, maybe we have a different conversation, come Friday or the weekend if J.K. Dobbins is back. But even then, like anyone coming off an injury, if we were treating this like a regular season game, we'd say he's probably going to be eased back into it. But again, it's a playoff game, so maybe not. I can't see the running backs being the X factor. I think you said it perfectly. The Broncos had the franchise record 68 sacks during the regular season. That was 11 more than any other team in the NFL. But when you look at them recently, they've had 7 turnovers in the last 2 games. So they had the first round bye, so that puts them back to week 18. And I know we're not counting that as much because we know Los Angeles wasn't playing their top guys, but it's been at least a better turnaround because they only had 12 takeaways in the first 16 games of the season. So if they are going to disrupt anyone and disrupt Drake May, doing this now and getting kind of back into the turnover game is going to be huge for them because, it's one where we didn't see him do it for a stretch of time during the regular season. And now if you're able to do it in the playoffs, it's going to be big. But yeah, I think it's going to end up having to be their defense keeping them in that game. Someone else is going to have to emerge on offense, obviously, but the defense is really going to have to work hard, which we've seen them do.
Also want to see their injury report. They have a lot of injuries. Pat Bryant had the concussion. He was cooking early on and left. Troy Franklin, hamstring injury. Alex Forsythe, their center, got hurt. And even Surtain got hurt during the game. He came back. But sometimes that lingers a couple days after the game. So I want to see their injury report for today. Obviously, too, J.K. Dobbins, is he going to come back? My guess is no, but they're saying he has a chance to practice this week. So the injury report for Denver is something to keep an eye on today as well. That first, the first initial injury report might not tell us much, but at least we can get somewhat of an idea of where these players are at.
And we do get that today. I believe, right? Because it's Sunday. Both games are on Sunday. We have no Saturday games this weekend, so that should
be weird. Like, is this the first Saturday in weeks, right?
I don't like it. What are you going to do?
No, I kind of do.
What are you going to watch? Well, you're going to watch. Do your baseball draft.
Yeah,
and watch
I got
some NBA.
A lot of baseball prep to do, and let's see what's going on in the NBA. Knicks Sixers at 3 o'clock. Oh yeah, we got some ABC game. Knicks Sixers, Warriors, Timberwolves, Lakers, Mavericks, Luka against his former team in Dallas.
Nice. That's the first time that's happened.
Good games on Saturday. There we go.
He hasn't faced his former team.
He has, but it's still a story.
Got it. Well, no, look, you've got a great Saturday plan, and you could go to bed early. Maybe catch up on some sleep. No.
I doubt that.
No,
that
I doubt
doesn't
that
happen.
too.
Maybe I could watch some. I don't know. Yeah, if I can find something boring to watch, maybe that'll put me to sleep.
Boring. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to suggest The Pit, but that's not boring. You get pretty.
Oh yeah, you started that, right?
I haven't seen the new season yet. No, but I have. Okay. I saw the first season.
It was good.
Oh, so good.
All right.
I highly recommend. Unless you don't like
people recommend that.
Unless you don't like blood and stuff, then that is definitely not for you.
Who doesn't like blood?
Okay. Well, okay. On that note, we're moving along. We're gonna keep breaking. I don't even know what to say. We're gonna keep breaking down these games. Let's talk about the X factor for some of these other teams: Patriots, Rams, Seahawks as well. We're gonna do that here coming up next. Oh, let's just say there's never a lack of drama in the NFL. If anyone's following the Bills press conference right now, if you're not, don't worry. There will be great articles written today about that. I would love to be in that room. I wonder what the tension's like. There's probably so much tension in there that it's just, I can't wait to read those reports after that's done. It'll be so fun.
Yeah, I think there will be a lot. These are very interesting quotes that you typically do not see at the end of the season from an owner and a GM. So a lot going on in Buffalo. They were a big topic, and it goes to show you the pressures of winning in the NFL, especially when you have that elite quarterback and you don't get it done. It can unravel pretty quickly. And there's a very interesting press conference here for Buffalo today.
Yeah, it's happening before our eyes. Let's just say that. I'm really curious to see who they go after, who their head coach ends up being. But we still have a lot of head coach openings. So we have that question almost in a lot of places. And then Adam, I was thinking about this last night because we had this conversation about offensive coordinators. We're going to have so many different, not necessarily new, but different offensive coordinators. Because usually when you have 10 head coach openings, I should say, that means you've got 10 new staffs coming in, and that means you have an offensive coordinator shuffle most of the time. And so we've already seen it with Bieniemy. I mean, there's teams changing things around that aren't even looking for a head coach. Bieniemy coming back to the Chiefs, and we talked about McDaniel here going over to the Chargers, but there's going to be a lot of new offensive coordinators, and that's something that we really, for fantasy and just the NFL in general, but for fantasy, that's what we pay attention to a lot.
Yeah, and you just mentioned how you were doing your wide receiver rankings, and that's where these offensive coordinators and these new systems can really change the value of some players. So that's why it's continuously ongoing throughout the offseason, changing things, and there'll be a lot with all these coaches eventually being named and bringing in new offensive coordinators and what it does to the system and the value of these players.
Oh yeah, but you know, we're gonna keep an eye on those, see who the next domino is to fall with the head coaching searches going on right now. But we are still looking ahead, and we're previewing these conference championships. We already talked about maybe the X factor that needs to happen for Denver. So the Seahawks, who is your X factor? Is it just a simple answer of Kenneth Walker, or do you think it lies somewhere else with this team? Because again, Zach Charbonnet is going to be out for the rest of the playoff run with his ACL injury, and it's super unfortunate because it's late in the season. We have to check back and see what his rehab process is going to be like. Kenneth Walker is technically a free agent, and so you've got 2 games left, hopefully for the Seahawks. He has 2 games left to kind of prove himself. But is he your X factor, or is it someone else?
Oh, yeah,
Something
it's Darnold.
else.
I mean, it's pretty simple, right? Just don't turn it over. Don't succumb to the pressure, because that's what happened in that first meeting where Darnold had an interception early, set up a short touchdown for the Rams, and they still were in the game. But, you know, that's going to be the key is Darnold.
Yeah.
Like, again, last week, because we don't even know, like, how healthy he is either. You know, they said he had the oblique injury, but he had to do nothing last week. You know, they just were able to jump out to the lead on the Shaheed kickoff return, got that 4th down stop, and it was pretty much smooth sailing. So we didn't have to see Darnold do anything. That's not going to be the key this week. Again, the Rams have not played well. I will say that. Like, the Rams were fortunate to escape last week. They have really not played well late in the season, but they certainly have the ability and talent to turn it around. And we saw these teams meet several weeks ago. It was 38-37 in overtime. Definitely a fun game. I do think Charbonnet is a big loss, though, because especially in pass protection, you know, we always complain, why aren't they getting Kenneth Walker the ball more? But I think a lot of it has to do with Charbonnet's better in pass protection. So I do think that's a big loss for them. That was a nice tandem with Walker and Charbonnet. And you know, the one thing with Walker, you know this, he tries to break a big run every single play, and I'm pretty sure that's what frustrates the coaching staff. Sometimes he doesn't take what's there, and he's looking to make it a bigger play, and you just don't need to do that as a running back all the time. Sometimes just take the 2, 3, 4 yards that are there. You don't need a 20, 25-yard run every play. As much as we would love it, you don't need it. So I do think Charbonnet is a big loss, and Darnold has got to be able to protect the football, not turn it over. And I think even Seahawks fans would still, I'm sure you're still a little concerned about that.
Oh, a little. Yeah, a lot. And that's why the Rashid Shaheed touchdown, like kickoff return touchdown, was so big, because we talked about Seattle playing with a lead and how that does help. Again, I always am going to come back to alleviating pressure, taking pressure off Sam Darnold, whether it's in the run game, whether it's getting up with a lead like Rashid Shaheed did last weekend against the 49ers. And I do agree. I think this Charbonnet loss is significant, and his importance, just not only for the duo between Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker, is important, but his importance in 3rd down and short yardage situations. We're going to probably see how much that hurts this team. I don't think it's, you know, something that's insurmountable, right? That they can't get through. They're going to be able to get through it. Kenneth Walker is going to have this huge workload. I think he had 19 carries last week. Zach Charbonnet went down in the 2nd quarter. But I'm also interested to see who else they bring in, what else they do to make sure that, because Zach Charbonnet played a huge role in that win against the Rams in overtime a few weeks ago. Like, he was, and again, some people can say it's luck, but I mean, he had the 4-yard touchdown run and then made the heads up play on the 2-point attempt in the 4th quarter. You know, that pass that was whatever. That was crazy
planned.
again.
Yeah,
It was thrown backwards, and then he picked it up, and it was in the end zone. So I call that a heads-up play, but it could have been anyone besides Charbonnet. But I want to see who they bring in. We've seen AJ Barner, and I've seen this written up before. AJ Barner maybe with a tush-push play. We've seen them do that before,
yes.
and he's been unstoppable in those short yardage situations. So that's why I've been saying, if you're going to do guillotines, if you need to pick up a tight end, I've tried to get AJ Barner everywhere, because I think Barner, he's converted 10 of 11 attempts, and I think that's big. So I think they're going to be using him a little bit differently this weekend, and they're just going to try and fill that hole that Zach Charbonnet does leave them.
Yeah, and the Seahawks defense, we know how good it is, but they did not have a sack on Stafford in the last matchup. Stafford carved them up, 457 passing yards. Now, they have not played to that level, and maybe they take a little bit away from what the Bears did and use that as a blueprint to create some pressure, because Stafford was under a lot of pressure last week. That was not one of their better games. So if we know divisional games can be wild. These teams know each other very well. I mean, you just look at the numbers between these teams. So I think the Rams have outscored the Seahawks by 1 point in the two games, 58-57, and the yards, 830 for the Rams, 829 for the Seahawks. So pretty even teams. We know the Rams have a great offense. Seahawks have a great defense. It should be a good one. But I think all eyes will definitely be on Sam Darnold, because most people, if you just look at this, you're like, yeah, Seahawks are favored here. How can they not? But it comes down to Sam Darnold in a big spot still. And I think a lot of people like to look at a game and they go, okay, which quarterback do I want? Everyone's going to take Stafford, but there's so many other factors that go into the game, and the Seahawks defense is playing at a high level. But they're going to have to be way better than they were in that last one against the Rams, because the Rams pretty much moved the football at will in that game.
Yeah, and we've talked about Stafford maybe being in a little bit of a funk, and if you're looking back at the Bears game, we can attribute that to a lot of other things too. It was cold, the finger injury, all of that stuff, but the Bears were blitzing all night. He looked a little bit uncomfortable. You look at the drop back success rate, 31.8% in this game, worst of any game this season. So I do think Seattle will look at that game plan and say, how can we not necessarily replicate, but take away some of these things that the Bears did right. Even though they didn't win, they did do a great job of making Stafford just look a little bit different. Right? No touchdowns, no interceptions. That's why he was chopped in a lot of those guillotines as well. So we'll see what happens there. I'm a nervous Seahawks fan, but that was always going to happen, no matter who they were playing. We're going to continue breaking down these games as well, and want to just continue our conversation from yesterday about dynasty potential sell high candidates. We've got names for you there coming up next. Ooh, good song. This is Fantasy Life right here. Chicago, I bet that's cold right now. How cold is it for you in New York right now?
Yeah, yesterday it felt like 4 degrees, they said.
Ooh, that's cold. No,
I
thank
thought it
you.
was a little warmer today.
What, 10?
Let's see.
12?
Right now it's 20, feels like 15.
Nope. Thank you.
Tomorrow's 41 though, but then we're 17 degrees on Saturday is the high.
Oof.
And there's supposed to be some big snowstorm coming across the country. I actually think
When?
Sunday.
Oh, no.
Like massive. Like they're talking, I think I saw like 14 inches of snow in Tennessee or something like that.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
You didn't see this?
No. No, it's sunny and
Well, you know how it
degrees.
is. They always say this, like, oh, yeah, it's going to be historic. And then, like, barely anything happens. So we're supposed to get snow too, but not as much. We'll see. Okay. Like I said, I can't worry about, like, snow on a Sunday on Wednesday. Like, just wait till, like, a little before and then figure it out.
And then we'll probably have no weather. I mean, I know in Seattle for sure we have no weather concerns for the weekend. And in Denver,
I thought I saw potentially some rain.
Yeah, but we don't care about rain, do we?
Depends on the quarterback.
Okay. Is that a shot at Sam Darnold?
No, because Troy Aikman talked about during the broadcast, and as I know, he was awful in the rain. He hated the rain. And he was saying some quarterbacks just don't like gripping the football in the rain. They struggle. He was definitely one of them. So... but yeah, I don't think we should have any major weather. No, nothing in Denver. It looks like either 29 degrees, but sunny it looks like. So just a cold day. Cold, sunny day. You absolutely love it. For the Patriots, we already talked about the Broncos' X factor and it being potentially just their defense getting those key takeaways as well. Early X factor for the Patriots. Who or what would that be for you to win this game? Running the football. What?
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say Hunter Henry, but that's feels deep.
Yeah, that can be a little bit. I mean, yeah, because we know they got the good corners, right? So it could make life a little difficult for Diggs and Booty. So Henry could be more of a factor, but
yeah, the run game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
And Steve, look, we got to be honest here. Ramondre Stevenson's been way better than Travion Henderson.
He went in the first round of I told you I was doing that guillotine draft last night. He went pick 3.
Stevenson?
Ramondre Stevenson did.
Which
and
pick?
Honestly, pick 3.
Yeah,
me,
I look.
3. Yeah.
It's pretty ugly this week. Oh my, right? At running back, it's
not
ugly.
good.
It's Kenneth Walker, then drop off. But Stevenson has been better than Henderson. Henderson has not broken the big play here in the playoffs. Stevenson's getting it done on the ground and the passing game. His way more yards per play than Henderson. Stevenson's got 7 catches for 86 yards in the playoffs and 26 for 123 on the ground, 4.7 yards per carry. Henderson's under 3 yards per carry. So I know we've been loving Henderson in the fantasy circles, wanting him to play a bigger role, but we got to be fair here. In these 2 playoff games, Stevenson has looked way better.
Yeah, he's the one that I want to go and get. If you're there's others like you said, Kenneth Walker, and then I think Kyron Williams is obviously in play here as well. We're talking about the Guillotinies at guillotineleagues.com, but there was a huge drop off. I got Kayshon Boutte and I was excited because I think Boutte for this team as well for the Patriots is a huge riser. 3 receptions, 71 yards, that incredible touchdown that he had last week. I like him as well. So I think he has it's touchdown upside, touchdown dependent sometimes. But I did like getting him on my squad.
Guillotinies this week, if someone's playing 10 snaps, yeah, they're on a roster.
No, it was it got so
crazy.
Ugly. It was bad. I drafted Rashid Shaheed, and I love Rashid Shaheed, but I had to.
That's not a bad play this week, yeah.
There was no choice because some of those guys I was like, who is this? And are they on the team? Do they actually play? Like, you had to look at that in the double chop. We're going to continue on. It's time for that Fantasy Life Water Cooler news and notes you need to know here coming up next. It is time for that Fantasy Life Water Cooler, our favorite time of the day, going through the news and notes that you need to know, keep you up to date on everything going on across the NFL, and there is a lot going on right now. FantasyLife.com is always the place that you can go. If you don't have time to listen to us some days, if you just feel maybe a little bit out of the loop, FantasyLife.com, we've got that newsletter for you in your inbox 7 days a week, and all of our articles are 100% free as well, so make sure you go and check that out. I've got a new one up there, my top 36 wide receivers. Way too early look at the wide receiver position. We also have a ton of great guillotine league information if you're still in those guillotinies. We got our projections, our rankings, everything you need to do to win some of those guillotine leagues in the playoffs. And it's just a great time in the NFL. We're close to the end, Adam, which we do not like. So we're just gonna savor all these moments, all these football games, because come mid-April we're gonna be begging for one of the crappy Monday night games that we had this year. We're gonna be like, dang, I wish I had that back.
Yeah, we probably will. We know that during the season some of those games can frustrate us, but then, like anything, right, when it's all gone and you don't have
exactly.
You miss it.
You get sad. So there's definitely a lot going on. We've been mentioning the Bills press conference that went on today. Didn't necessarily go well, so we'll have some great quotes from that once that gets written up by those awesome journalists that are down there. The first piece of news, though, that we hit at the top of the hour that want to make sure we go through again was that Mike McDaniel has been hired as the offensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Chargers. So they are expected to hire Mike McDaniel. He was fired as the head coach of the Miami Dolphins just last week. And yeah, he had interviewed for multiple head coaching and OC positions since that firing, but this is the landing spot that he chose. And I think this is actually a really good spot because we're really going to pay attention. We've talked about this today and throughout the last couple of weeks, but where these offensive coordinators go is going to be important for us in fantasy. And so we know that McDaniel, was with Miami, had Tua Tagovailoa. This is obviously a huge upgrade at the quarterback position. And I'm just excited, Adam, to be honest, to see him maybe get a little bit more creative again. Maybe you just need to move. Maybe, and we've said this before, some coordinators are not meant to be coaches. Some coaches aren't meant to be coordinators, vice versa. So however you want to look at it, I'm excited for him to be in a new place where maybe, we see his innovation really thrive and where he just needed to move on, gets more creative. He has a good roster that he's working with, especially on offense, has a good group of pieces there that he could really utilize. So I want to see him be innovative. I want to see him be creative, and this is going to probably make some of those pieces in fantasy go up a little bit in prices.
Yeah, people are going to be excited about this move, thinking that it's an upgrade offensively. It's been a struggle at times for this offense, especially in the postseason. And McDaniel comes in and gets a quarterback in Herbert, a lot of talent. We saw him run a lot more this year. Clearly, the offensive line was a big issue. The injuries to the tackles played a big part in why this offense declined or struggled down the stretch and couldn't get it done in the postseason. So better health from the offensive line, more creativity on offense should really help. So you have to feel good about this Chargers offense going forward.
Yep, I like this one a lot. So again, you've got Mike McDaniel set to be hired as the Chargers' new offensive coordinator. So another domino to fall. We still have a ton of head coach openings that we're going to be paying attention to. The biggest job still open there. We're looking at the Ravens, looking at the Bills, because that will also, affect how we look at those teams from a fantasy perspective. Those two quarterbacks are always, Adam, going to be at the top of the list. Josh Allen is still going to be QB1 going into next year. Lamar Jackson's still going to be ranked as a top 5 option, but especially with Lamar Jackson, he was a fantasy bust in 2025. There's no other way around it. I wrote that up in one of my articles at fantasylife.com, and I just said, hey, listen, any way you look at it, I can't believe I'm writing this, but he was one of the worst picks that you could have taken. Injuries definitely took a toll, right? We can agree on that. And then when he came back, he just never really looked fully healthy. But when I was writing Justin Jefferson and Lamar Jackson in the same article as a fantasy bust, Adam, I was like, what? If you would have told me that before the season started, I would have said you're lying, and I would have never made that bet with you, because that's insane. But he was bad. I mean, he finishes the QB 16 in points per game overall, QB 20 from last season. Yeah,
it was pretty bad, and
awful.
You didn't expect that, right? That's what makes fantasy wild, is that there's always going to be things that are unpredictable that you don't expect to happen. And when you get caught holding that bag of crap, it sucks.
That is how I feel about some of my teams this year. I look back and I'm like, well, because I wrote this article and I said, well, let me just go look up one of my teams that just did not perform well, where you tried. There's only so many things you can do on the waiver wire, and you never give up. But some of these are from personal experiences, like Matthew Golden, Lamar Jackson, Justin Jefferson, Brian Thomas Jr. I was like, yeah, I had a lot of BTJ. Again, we never give up. We always work the waiver wire. But man, some of those picks were just awful. Awful.
Yeah, I had a team this year that might have been the worst I ever had, or
really?
Worst finish. Yeah. And I'm not used to that. Like, I'll have teams that don't make the playoffs and everything, but I'm not used to having like a team that is just absolutely garbage. And yeah, I had one. Oh boy, I'm looking at it now. Now I see why. Jeez.
Who is it?
Ryan Thomas, Drake London, Travion Henderson, Calvin Ridley, Travis Hunter, Roma Dunze.
Oh, no. Those last 3 receivers.
Lost Tucker Kraft.
Yeah, brutal.
Did have Charbonnet. Had Dak Prescott, who I didn't take till round 13 as my QB1.
Yeah,
that usually is a formula for success.
Yeah, there you go.
Trevor Lawrence was the backup, and I dropped him.
Oh, that's bad.
Okay,
I mean, what can we do?
Way to ruin my day now.
Well, sorry. I had to write about it, too. I had to reminisce, and it's not in a good way.
Now I'm going to be
like
Josh Allen crying at my press conference right now.
Be nice to poor Josh Allen. He wasn't crying at the press conference.
I know. I mean, that's how I feel when my fantasy teams fall short.
Well, that's true. That's because we love fantasy football. But no,
and
I think I was marked safe from Joe Mixon. We didn't draft any Joe Mixon. It never made any sense.
Mixon, for me, was an easy stay away, and anyone who has my rankings can tell you, because I just kept dropping him, and I think I put him to a point in the 70s or 80s at running back, and said, look, just don't draft him. And I know what happens in these drafts, because I was in a draft live where someone said it. I think they took him in round 9. They're like, oh, you kind of have to take Mixon there. In my head, I was like, no, you don't, but good luck.
You don't.
Just sometimes you just have to read the room, read the context, the quotes that are coming out. There was never anything positive about Mixon until right now. We don't even know what is going on. Something weird is going on there because we don't have any details, but it was pretty clear that he was not going to play a major role, and I was not surprised at all that he was out for the year. So that is one that I got right, and I thought it was pretty easy to see. There are times you're going to get stuff wrong, but the Mixon one, it was just like, and people talk themselves into it because, and I think this is something that is a mistake. A lot of times, well, it's round 10, round 11.
Yes.
You can still find good players in those rounds. Like, you don't want to throw away the pick, right? You can go back and look at those rounds. In many years, there's not a lot there, right? We can go look at round 9, 10, 11 and be like, well, there was really only 2 players that emerged. But you want to do your best to find someone that could either potentially break out. I mean, you could have gotten ETN in round 9 in some formats, or Javonte Williams. And again, I was not on Javonte Williams, so I can't say it was not me taking him in those rounds. Like, I did not see that coming. I was on ETN, but sometimes you just have to. You do have to X players off your board. Mm-hmm. I think like the Mixon one to me was easy to see.
Yeah. You have to go with, as much as we always say, because the opposite of that is that you have to draft the guys that you do like. And so that was our big conversation on Drake May. So as much as we say, hey, try and get them any way possible, if you have guys that you're just not in on, as much as they're falling, you just can't say, well, it's round 12. I'm just going to take them here. Just go with what you believe. And if you're wrong, you're wrong. And you can work through it. But I agree with that on Nick Chubb. And I actually, speaking of, I did see an update. Well, actually, no, it wasn't really an update. D'Amico Ryans yesterday said there was, quote, no clarity on whether Joe Mixon will play in 2026.
Yeah, we're
going to have this same conversation. No, it was weird because he was on the PUP list. He was on the physically unable to perform list after injuring his foot, but he was away from the team when he did that. That's what made the whole, and then we didn't really hear about it. No one asked about him, or maybe they did and I just didn't see it, which is the more likely situation. But he said, as of right now, I don't know the answer to that. When asked about Joe Mixon in 2026, he said there's no clarity. Woody Marks, Nick Chubb were obviously the team's top running backs, but even that situation wasn't great. And it just doesn't seem, even if they did have Mixon coming back, they need to add there a little bit, or get Woody Marks in a pass catching role as well, because that would be big.
Yeah, so I guess Aaron Wilson, who covers the team, said a source described Mixon's career as in doubt during the season, and throughout the year, the injury return was never close, and the team honored Mixon's wishes for privacy. So, yeah, I don't know what's going on, but
he's under contract through 2026 too.
He turns 30 in July.
He has to be, if it's away from the team, I'm curious about the money situation. They didn't pay him that much, but isn't it when you get hurt away from the team, some of that contract and that money is voided because that's on your own fault?
Could be, yeah. I guess that's what happened here, and they just, I don't know. It's a very weird situation.
Yeah, we'll look into that as the offseason goes on. But yeah, no clarity on Joe Mixon, but it doesn't matter because everyone listening knows that you weren't going to draft him probably next season anyway. So just keep that in the back of your mind. I did have some more just updates since we are here in the water cooler, fantasylife.com, to go subscribe to that newsletter. It looks like Malik Neighbors is trending toward a return in training camp. Again, we had, I think it was a couple weeks ago, right, where Malik Neighbors came out and said he's going to be back out there when he feels like he's healthy. So we've gotten, I wouldn't say this is clarity, but their GM, the Giants GM, did express optimism that he would be ready for training camp in late July. He went down with the torn ACL in his right knee. That was late October, which was awful when that happened. And he just wasn't able to come back, obviously, with that. So the timeline would be nice to put him in for training camp, and that means that we could be looking at drafting him. I have him really high in my rankings right now. I'm just gonna be optimistic about Malik Neighbors until we can't be, but I have him as wide receiver 8 in my rankings.
I was, when you said you had him real high, I was actually expecting him 7. Higher.
What do you want, 5?
Well, no, when you said I have him real high, I'm like, okay,
that's really high because I have CeeDee Lamb. Well, I couldn't put. I'm not going to put him above CeeDee Lamb. I guess I could put him above Drake London, but I really like Drake London. Amon-Ra, JSN, Jamar Chase, Puka Nacua. Those are my top 6.
I mean, I guess because of the injury, right? Maybe he moves up. So you said you had him at 7, right?
7. Yep.
Okay. So, all right. Yeah, that's fair.
He could move ahead of Drake London. I guess it depends on what the Falcons do at quarterback.
Yeah, and then you would put him. You have him over Nico and Rashee Rice, right?
I do have him over.
Yeah.
Rashee
and
Rice
over
is
Jefferson.
at 8.
Where do you have Jefferson?
10, and I'm gonna probably move him back.
What
to be
about
honest.
Pickens?
12.
Okay, no love for Pickens again. I got you.
I want to see what happens with the contract situation. If he goes back to Dallas, then I think I'm going to move him inside the top 10 and maybe move CeeDee
Where do you
Lamb
have
down a
JSN?
little bit. 3.
I thought you would put him 1 and be
No,
biased.
I thought about it, and then I thought that would be too biased. I got JSN 3, Puka at 2, and
Chase
Jamar
1?
Chase at 1.
I like that because I think a lot of people are going to have Puka 1.
I think so,
And,
too.
Yeah, the one thing about Puka, it's every game. He's like hurt. Did you
Yes.
notice that? Like he's always
But in
leading
college,
over.
We've always seen that.
I know, but it's every game.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was after one of the running plays. Like he was getting up slowly. Now he doesn't play all the snaps either. I mean, that's
No,
something that
we
we've
saw
seen
that
all
with
year.
Devontae Adams. Yeah.
Well, I think people are starting to. It's funny how they notice it more in the playoffs. I'm like, this has been going on all year.
You're like, hello, welcome in.
But with Chase, I'll say this about Chase though. It's like he really didn't do anything to lose that number 1.
No,
right?
not at all.
The lack of the touchdowns went down significantly, and I think a lot of that had to do with Burrow being out. Although when Burrow came back, he still didn't score because I remember it was week 17 because I had put it out. I'm like, that's Jamar Chase's first touchdown since October 16th, and someone was
crazy.
like, "Wow!" I had to look that up to see if it was true, and it was. I'm like, "Yeah." So he went a long stretch because he scored 8 on the season, but 3 of them came in the final 2 weeks.
Week
But if you
17
look at
and 18.
everything else, like the receptions were almost the same, 127 to 125. The targets actually went from 175 to 185. Yes, the yards went down. And again, part of that is Burrow being out, 1708 to 1412. And then the touchdowns took a big dip from 17 to 8. But we could easily see, especially with Burrow healthy, Chase going back to 15 touchdowns next season. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I get
look,
people
you-
coming back saying, "Well, Joe Burrow's not going to be healthy. Joe Burrow's never healthy." And I get that. I get that angle too, but I just wanted Chase there because out of everything, he still finishes the wide receiver 4.
yeah, look, I get that with Burrow. It feels like it's always something. At least we know this going into the offseason, he's healthy right now, right? So if he can have an entire offseason of health, you'd feel better about that. It does seem like it's always, but it's like weird things too, right? He had an appendectomy one year. He had,
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so-
and a lot of preseason injuries too.
Yeah.
that were happening.
and he did play 17 games 2 years ago, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he's missed.
He's missed time.
He's
a
missed
lot
at
of time.
least 6 games 3 times. So basically half his career, he's missed like, more than 6 games. But
Yeah, it's not good.
yeah, you get him healthy or, he goes back to what he did 2 years ago. And yeah, but I think this could be a year where there's not a consensus number 1, right?
I would agree at wide receiver.
No,
or
at
just in
overall,
general.
because I think you
Yeah,
could see Bijan go 1. I think you could see Chase go 1. I think you could see Puka go 1, and maybe even Gibbs 1.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's because I think we all know that it's not. I don't think it's going to be CMC. People aren't going to go back to that because there's so much of a divide with CMC, just like last season, where he just won't be the guy that goes there. So I would agree. There's 4 really good options, and that's what I wrote in my article for just the top 3 receivers. I said, listen, even the top 10. We talk about this all the time, Adam. You can put them in different spots. You're going to start all of those guys when the time comes. It's just shuffling them around a little bit. But the top 3, I think, going into the year is always going to be Jamar Chase, Puka Nacua, JSN. However, which way you have them, I just have them in that order: Chase, Nacua, JSN, and that could change. But yeah, Puka, the one big thing, and we're going to be talking about these rankings here in a little bit. But the one thing with Puka is that I'm curious if Stafford doesn't come back.
Yeah,
what they do. That's the big one.
what I'm thinking too.
Yeah, like I have him at 2, but I have him at 2 with the idea that Stafford comes back. If Stafford doesn't come back, obviously Sean McVay is a genius, and we all know that they'll probably find the right fit there. But I have him at 2 with the idea that Stafford's coming back. If he doesn't, then you have to change things around a little bit. I think he comes back, though. We've heard no rumors or murmurs about him.
But okay,
retiring.
What if he wins the Super Bowl?
Then maybe he played so well this year. He probably looked at this year and said, "Wow, I've still got it. I could go 2 more years."
Yeah, but wouldn't you say if you won the Super Bowl this year, this is the perfect time to go out on a high note?
No. Because then I'd say, well, how much could I have had left? You know, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's going to be interesting. Let's see. Well, they're not going to win.
Wait, is the Super Bowl February 8th, right?
The 8th, yeah.
Oh boy.
What?
Stafford's birthday's February 7th.
Don't do this.
He's in the Super Bowl. It's written.
What are you talking about?
He's in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, wait, how old is he turning?
38.
Get out of here. He's not in the Super Bowl because it's his birthday.
I'm sorry. You're seeing.
Then the last, 5 years? Why isn't he back? What are we doing?
Oh, he's there. He's on the precipice right now in the NFC Championship game.
Get out of here. You're going to make me mad. And we still have 3 more shows to do before these games this weekend. Don't do this
for
to
the
me.
people who say the NFL is scripted, there you go. Perfect script. He has a birthday, the next day wins the Super Bowl, and then he retires the next day. It's all.
Ooh.
Save this.
Just do it.
Save this audio.
He's going to be at Disneyland if he wins. He's not going to do it the next day. He's going to be at the happiest place on earth. Don't do that. They're not even going to be there. Stop. It doesn't matter. Get out of here. We're going to continue.
Well, let's see. Do you know when's Sam Darnold's birthday? Because if it's February 8th,
I don't know. Hang on. I think it's July 27th.
June 5th.
Ooh, I was close though. That was
you're
complete
not.
Guess.
Like a month away.
July?
A month and a half away is close. Get out of here. Come on.
I had a lot of options to go through. That was pretty good, to be honest. How old is he going to turn?
29. Jeez, doesn't it feel like he's older? It's like he's been around for like 15 years.
Because we've talked about him on different teams for so long. We're like, how old is he? No, he's going to be great.
For real, it feels like he's been in the league like 15 years. I mean, he was 21, I guess, when the Jets drafted him. Jeez, in 2018.
Gosh,
wow.
I'm crying. That is just too funny. All right, we're going to continue on. We're going to go through kind of what's next for the eliminated teams because we haven't done that yet, looking at what they need to do to get better in the offseason, going through my wide receiver rankings. And if you guys have questions, comments, concerns for the weekend, at Valenzuela17, at Adam Ronis over there on X, we are here to answer any and all questions. We're going to do that coming up right after this. Feels like everyone's listening to us today, Adam. Well, obviously. But did you see the update on Mixon just 6 minutes ago?
No.
Maybe they were listening to the show and they said, actually, let's put a tweet out because Kendall and Adam are talking about us. But I see Nick Caserio said that Joe Mixon had a medical condition that never improved. Quote, he didn't jump off a building. He wasn't doing anything irresponsible. It was just a freak thing.
Yeah, he said he wasn't riding a snowmobile or something like. Who? Okay.
Okay, if you say so.
Well, they did say they wanted to respect his privacy, so.
Well, they did that because no one heard about it.
He didn't jump off a building. That's okay. Well, that's good. Cool.
I mean,
I'm glad he didn't.
Yeah, it's good for everyone that he did not do that. But again, we're not going to be drafting him much, if at all, next season. So just be careful with that. We'll see if we get any more updates on him. Oh, by the way, I didn't get this in the water cooler, but can we just talk about Baker Mayfield's tweets last night? That was good. If anyone missed it, so there was Robert. Okay, so there's a lot that goes into it, but essentially with Kevin Stefanski being hired, someone tweeted from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and they said, they tweeted something like,
I think their beat writer, he's well known.
Falcons head coach here's the tweet. Falcons Kevin Stefanski had a dumpster fire at quarterback in Cleveland. Baker Mayfield, Deshaun Watson failed, which started a chain reaction to 11 other starters. And Mayfield saw that and responded saying failed is quite a reach, pal. So now we get these two going up against each other twice a year. And I'm really excited about that, to be totally honest. That's great.
Baker holding a grudge. You'll love to see it. So, he said still waiting on a text call from him after I got shipped off like a piece of garbage. Can't wait to see you twice a year, coach.
Oh, yeah. Love it. Once we don't have a schedule yet. That's fantastic. Baker Mayfield with a chip on his shoulder, and he didn't play well in 2025. I might have to push him up the rankings just a little bit because of this, to be honest.
I don't know about that.
No, don't do that. It was bad. I mean, it really was just all around bad for Baker. And that's why we can talk about it here. We can start. But for my rankings, for the wide receiver rankings, I had some of the toughest times ranking those Bucks in the top 36. So my top 36 article is live at fantasylife.com, breaking down my top 36 wide receivers. Way too early, we know. But when I was doing it, it was difficult because Mike Evans, the thought is that he comes back for one more season, right? I have Mike Evans at 23, and then I have Chris Godwin at the bottom here at 34, and I have a Emeka Egbuka right in the middle at wide receiver 29. But having all three of those guys inside the top 36, I said, man, this could not go my way, especially if Baker Mayfield doesn't play well again in 2026. You're not going to get return on investments. But I had Mike Evans, then Emeka Egbuka, and then Chris Godwin. 23, 29, 34 for those three.
I think that is going to be really important, figuring out how to rank them, because they all have the possibility of performing well, but there's also major risk with all of them. And also, let's not forget Jalen McMillan in the mix too. Could this be a situation where they just spread it out and there's no dominant? Evans, he is a free agent. You would think he goes back to Tampa, but he's also coming off a season where he was injured and he missed was it a hamstring in 2020? Yeah, it was a hamstring in 2024 also, right?
Same game as Godwin when Godwin went down.
Yeah. So he already missed. And was this year a hamstring again? No. What about collarbone, shoulder? What was it?
Let me look it up. I can't remember.
I think it was a collarbone, right? He landed hard on his, and people were like, "Oh, that's a concussion."
Yeah, broken collarbone and a concussion in week 7.
Okay, so it's 2 years in a row with injuries, and he's getting older. So I think there is a little risk there. Godwin, it took him some time, but I thought he looked better towards the end of the season. So maybe a full year recovered. Maybe he's a little bit better. But he's still more of a possession guy anyway. It's not like he's going to break these big plays. Egbuka obviously flashed early in the season, maybe taking the pressure off him. And because he was asked to be a number 1, and that was kind of unfair for a guy that they drafted where they didn't expect him to play a big role. It was more of a pick for the future with the age of Evans and Godwin. And then it turned out, okay, here we go. We need you right now. McMillan going down too. So, yeah, that's one I think that you need to figure out here this offseason. It's going to be key. Yeah, Godwin turns 30 February 27th. So you got 2 receivers over 30, and then you got these young receivers. So, yeah, that's really going to be a key to figuring things out here to see which one emerges. And maybe it's just they spread the ball around and none of them are going to be great for fantasy. It's certainly possible.
And if we don't see Evans back, that makes Jalen McMillan kind of this sneaky fantasy sleeper, just depending on what happens to him. Because we always know when one guy goes out, we look down the roster and say, okay, who else could step up? But I'm telling you, when I was doing this article, that was a crowded receiver room that I really didn't know what to do with. And I know I'm going to, move those guys around as the offseason goes on. The other one was Jacksonville. I had a clue, but I really had no clue. I did not. So this is something that I know is going to change, but depending on what news we get with Travis Hunter, I'll put him in the top 36. Right now I don't have him there, and he probably deserves to be there if they tell us that he's good to go in week 1, but he had the season-ending injury, and then Jacoby Myers got the contract extension, and then Brian Thomas Jr. is still there. So that was another group of receivers where I said, this is a really crowded room. We need to get this right. You want to be as close to right on how you rank these guys because it's going to be really important. But Travis Hunter was the one that I just left off for right now because of the injury, and we'll see if he's able to come back. But BTJ, Jacoby Myers, that was another group that was difficult.
Really Hunter plays primarily on defense going forward.
But they've already told us that he's gonna. They already told us. And Parker Washington, I don't think Parker was ever going to be inside the top 36, but he's going to be right there. I think they told us already, and I know that that's me trusting coaches and what they say about him.
It can easily change. Or there's also talk about potentially moving Brian Thomas Jr.
I did write that one up, that there is a chance that maybe they do get him out of there because that just he had drops. His chemistry with the offensive coordinator and with his quarterback Trevor Lawrence wasn't good. They did come out and say Travis Hunter will continue playing offense and defense once recovered from that injury. Again, how much do we believe that? We don't know, but we don't know.
We also don't know how much offensively that could be. I know they have some free agents at cornerback, so he could still play offense, but maybe it's a lot less than this. It's so crazy because that right at the point he got injured was when they were starting to expand his role.
Yes. You remember that game?
Yeah.
It was,
he was going off.
Yeah. And then, but the interesting thing about that injury was that we didn't learn about that because that was at practice, right?
I think it was.
He went down on like a Tuesday, and they told us that it was. And then we heard the horrible thing that no one ever wants to hear, that it was non-contact at practice, and that's exactly what happened. So it was days removed from his. He had 24 fantasy points. That was week 7 against the Rams. And then they had their bye week, so I feel like we learned after that it wasn't good, and that he was not going to be back this year.
Well, I can tell you this. If there's a game in London, Travis Hunter's a must start, because that's where he had 8 for 101 and a touchdown on 14 targets. So something about London.
Oh, that Rams game? It was Rams-Jaguars? Oh, wow.
Yeah. So something about that game, London, just gets Travis Hunter going.
He had
so
14
just keep that
targets in that game.
Yes.
Wow. Because before that, he hadn't gotten over 10.
They did get trounced, and they were playing from behind. It was 21-0 at the half.
And then he didn't have a 10 fantasy point game until week 7. He was always under 10, from what I see.
Because of
ESPN scoring.
Yeah, the talk was, all right, here we go. They're going to start to develop Hunter. He's going to play a lot more. And he started to move up the rankings. He had that big game. You felt good, and then he gets hurt.
Yeah, that was brutal. And the last one here that I had trouble, getting behind or trying to figure out in these top 36 wide receiver rankings was this one will be easier, I think, between the two teams that we just talked about. But it was Michael Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr. And just seeing that a lot hinges on what the quarterback situation looks like, who their head coach actually ends up being. But I actually had Marvin Harrison Jr. inside the top 36, and he was at 36. So that was kind of a difficult one for me as well to look at. But
well, at least he's much lower than he was this past season, because I thought he might have been at a bigger discount in 2025, and then I'd see him go in 4th round, and I'd be like, really? And I could never pull the trigger. And part of me was like, maybe I should, but I was like, I cannot do it. So yeah, I did not have him on my team this year, Harrison.
Yeah, I didn't either. And it actually wasn't for lack of trying, because I think I did try to get him on a couple teams, and he went, like you just said, he went a little bit too high. So I just said, nah, I can't do it there. Oh, let me give you one more here, because this was also another one. I have my notes down from writing this article. FantasyLife.com, 100% free. Where would you have Garrett Wilson in a way too early ranking right now? I was moving him up. I was moving him down. I landed on wide receiver 15, but it does not feel right in this moment.
Yeah, it would be the 15 to 20 range. We need to see who the quarterback is going to be. But look, at least last year, even with Fields, he was having a really good season. I don't know if people realize that. You go look at his numbers. I think he had one bad game. It was against Denver. And I think that was London. It was an overseas game, and Surtain was on him, and that game was ugly on both sides. But if you look at the games before that, Wilson was producing, even with Fields and his inaccuracy and his struggles. So Wilson has shown. So he's not going to take that elite leap like top 5, top 10, but he can be that wide receiver too.
Yes.
A lot does depend on the quarterback and how many touchdowns does he get, but he's been able to perform with an aptitude at quarterback. He had 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons going into this year before the injury struck. Touchdowns have just been always a problem, although this year, who knows what would have happened had he finished the year, but he was on pace for, a career best. He was on pace for 8-9 touchdowns. He had 7 in 2024, just 7 in his first 2 seasons, and the volume's always been there. 147, 168, 154 targets. So, and we've seen him, the receptions go up each year. So, yeah, I think that's fair. Like the 15 to 20 range of wide receiver, and then he'll move up or down depending on what the quarterback situation is. Although it's probably not going to be great. But, again, he has shown the ability to kind of get it done with whoever.
But it's probably going to be a rookie, realistically. I don't think I know that they're linked to Kirk Cousins, but I think that with the Falcons and hiring Stefanski, that I think Cousins stays. And he's their guy until you can get Michael Penix Jr. healthy, he might be in line to play week 1, but from what I've read, it's not looking great for Michael Penix Jr. to be able to play week 1. And then Mel Kiper Jr. had his mock draft or whatever come out a couple days ago, and he wrote up that he thinks the Jets are taking a quarterback in the first round, but not at second overall, that they're going to wait till that 16th overall and take Alabama's quarterback Ty Simpson. But again, this is not a good like the one thing you're going to hear, and that I've heard already for 2 months, is that this quarterback class is not deep. And so we always knock down some of these receivers because of rookie quarterbacks. We say, hey, we know that they're talented, but at some point you have to look on the other side and know that rookie quarterbacks take a little while. And especially in this class where you don't have, a Jaden Daniels, you don't have these guys that we say, oh, for fantasy, we want to take them right away. We don't really have that this year. So Ty Simpson, a rookie quarterback, maybe coming in for Garrett Wilson, yeah, I'd push him down, probably outside the top 20.
Yeah, I think we might have to do that, because the thing is, like, the ceiling is just not high. Like, he'll give you a decent floor, but do we really want that there? We've seen him. He's disappointed in fantasy. As good as those numbers are, when you look at it from a fantasy result, it's just not what you want in that area. So, you're just not going to get that breakout that you want. You want to try and find a guy in that area that can get 8 to 10 touchdowns. It's not going to happen with Garrett Wilson. He just showed it.
No, it's going to be tough. So again, my top 36 wide receivers, way too early, but it's never too early to talk about fantasy. That is live at fantasylife.com, 100% free. I also have it tweeted out at Valenzuela17, at Adam Ronis over there on X. Going to continue on talking a little bit of fantasy here, but also making sure we're getting you guys ready for those conference championship games. We talked about the X factors for the Patriots and the Seahawks. What or who are the X factors for the Rams going into this weekend, and the Broncos? How can the Broncos win this game at home with Jarrett Stidham? We're going to break it down coming up next. If you call yourself a sports fan, you got to have Xfinity. All the games, all in one place, and here's what you get when you watch sports with Xfinity. You get that sports zone, so that means every pro football game and over 1,000 college games, all the highlights, all the alerts, and all in one place. The multi-view lets you be in up to 4 stadiums at once. You also get the Xfinity fan view, so that means live scores, odds, and stats, all in one place, personalized to you and the teams that you actually care about. Enhanced 4K and that voice remote where you can just say football. Imagine all your football all in one place. Easy. Learn more at Xfinity.com. Restrictions apply. New residential customers only. Taxes and fees extra and subject to change. This is Fantasy Life right here with you on this Wednesday, getting you ready for the conference championship games. This weekend should be a great couple of games, both on Sunday. Adam said he's going to catch up on his sleep on Saturday, watch some NBA, maybe start cooking. That's all that I've heard today. It's
cooking?
Fantastic.
Never.
Cooking.
Well, I shouldn't say
guacamole.
never, but that I can do, yes.
You could do that.
I wouldn't exactly call that cooking, though.
I don't know. Kind of impressive, though, that the one thing that you say you can make is, guac. That's a pretty good party trick, if you ask me. I don't know.
That's true,
That's
but
nice.
Is it really considered cooking, though?
It's
You don't even need a flame.
Well, you don't need a flame to. Yeah, I'd call it something like that. Yeah, maybe not. I'm trying to think about it now. Maybe not, but it's still good that you can make that.
Well, at least
I think
can
that's
do
a
that,
win.
right? I'm looking for all the things.
I think it's a win.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Who doesn't like? Well, some people actually don't like guacamole. I don't know why.
I was going to say a lot of people don't like.
I don't know why. Is because it's green the way it looks?
I don't know. I was talking to someone.
There was a long period that I didn't eat guac, and then I don't know why either. But then once I had it, I was like, "This is amazing."
Yeah, I can't imagine. Well, I talked to someone over the weekend that said, I don't like avocado toast. And I said, oh, you don't like just avocados then? And they go, no, I love guacamole. And I said, well, it's the same thing. It's smashed up. One thing is smashed up on a piece of toast, and one thing is just mashed with maybe you take out, I guess, the onions and stuff. But
yeah, depending on how you make it. Yeah.
I said, what are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense to me, but teach their own. Whatever you want to do here. I've got no easy transition from guacamole to asking you how the Broncos win this game. To be honest with you, we've already talked through the Patriots and the potential X factor for them being the run game. Seahawks, kind of the same thing, but really more looking at Sam Darnold. How do the Broncos win, Adam? Because we're going to really be breaking down these two teams as the week continues on. But if the Broncos were to be at home and upset the Patriots with Jarrett Stidham, how do they do it?
They're going to need a great defensive performance. We mentioned how their defense has struggled a bit lately. They're going to have to go back to what we saw in the middle of the season, and especially that pass rush with Bonito and Zach Allen. They really need to put pressure on Drake May, because we saw that Patriots offense was not great this past week against the Texans. If it wasn't for playing C.J. Stroud, maybe they lose that game. So, and again, I think Drake May got sacked. He's been getting sacked a lot. He, as good as he's been taking a lot of sacks this year. So I think that's the key, is they really need a great defensive performance, and it starts with putting pressure on May, potentially getting a turnover. May's been sacked 5 times in each of the 2 postseason games. Now, again, Texans defense, Chargers defense, they're pretty good. But we know Denver's defense is good, and they can bring the pressure. So I think they're going to really need their defense to kind of lead the way here. I mean, especially with Stidham at quarterback. And maybe Stidham surprises us. Again, Peyton was very high on him. McDaniel was very high on him. One of the first signings Peyton made was Stidham. So he clearly believes in him, and he's a good offensive mind. So maybe Stidham surprises and makes plays. But really their defense has got to come through here to at least keep it close. So they can get a big play on offense, get a big run, or get the field position battle in their favor. But I think it does start with Denver's defense in this game.
Denver's defense, the takeaways, we talked about this earlier, but they now have 7 turnovers as well in the last 2 games. That does go back to Week 18, so I understand. Take that with a little bit of a grain of salt against Los Angeles, the Chargers, when they played that game. But it's been a good turnaround because this team only produced 12 takeaways in the first 16 games of the season. And when you look at stats like that, only the Cowboys, Commanders, and Jets forced fewer turnovers down that stretch. So that's a big part of it. And I think, again, it's a downgrade no matter what way we look at it, from Bo Nix to Jarrett Stidham. And this is going to be his first postseason appearance, and his 5th start ever as a quarterback in the NFL. So at least he's behind arguably one of the best offensive lines in the league. So that's going to help him a lot. Again, it's still a long shot. No matter which way you look at this, Adam, I know people are going to try and spin it and say, well, they've got the best defense and their offensive pieces can step up. Yes, but there's a reason why they're underdogs in this game. And again, at least they're at home. That makes it not a lot easier, but that at least alleviates some of that pressure. And yeah, I think it's going to be a great game though. Anyone thinking that this might be a blowout, and again, maybe we're talking Monday and it was, but for right now, I think this could stay a little bit closer than people maybe think. Yeah,
for sure. I don't think that it's going to be a blowout. Again, because of Denver's defense, especially. Yeah. We saw that the Will Campbell had problems against the pass rush, and now you get another good team in Denver that can rush the passer. So New England's trying to become the 6th team to go from last place to the Super Bowl.
Wow. That's how long was there,
Do you know who the last team to do it was?
No, who? Actually.
The Bengals in 2021.
Oh, wow. Okay. Nice. I mean, the Patriots fans, just spoiled in a good way, but I'm happy for you. But what, their down years was like 1 year, 2 years? Like, that's it?
Yeah. Oh, we got Drake May now.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. We've got our franchise quarterback that teams spend years and decades trying to look for.
And never find it.
And never find it.
And they get Brady and May.
Oh my gosh, I don't know. That must be really nice over there. But again, we're just a little bit jealous. It's fine. You might be a little bit more jealous than me, but everything's going to be okay.
It's been awful to be a Cowboys fan, but at least I did see Super Bowls in the 90s. I might have to grasp and relive those memories forever. But hey, last year at this time,
at least you had those.
I got to take a shot with Emmitt Smith, man.
That's true.
One of my heroes.
That was the best.
Right?
That was the best. That was such a good weekend. Yeah, that was fun, and you have that memory forever now.
And that's pretty much all I'm gonna get with the Cowboys the rest of my life.
No, not a lot of people can say that about Emmitt Smith.
That's true.
I think that was really cool.
Jets fans don't get anything. Browns.
Really cool.
So.
Yeah, there we go. Speaking of just maybe not bad teams, but what's next for eliminated teams? Let's go through and finish up, talking about the Chicago Bears from this angle here. San Francisco 49ers, Buffalo Bills. We're going to break down those 4 teams that left over the weekend and break it down here coming up next. What are the team needs for these eliminated teams over the weekend? We want to talk a little bit here about the Buffalo Bills, the San Francisco 49ers, looking at the Texans, and of course the Chicago Bears. I think we could start with the Bills, Adam. Team needs, what they're probably going to do this offseason and what's next is not talking badly about Keon Coleman in a press conference in front of everyone. If people miss that would happen like an hour or two ago, whatever. But wherever you get your Buffalo Bills news, just make sure to go tonight, just get done with dinner and go read every single quote that came out of that press conference, because it was not good from what happened. Or it just didn't look good. I don't know what the point was, but it was drastically different from what the Ravens press conference looked like. It was just not a good look.
Yes, number one need, PR training, for sure.
No kidding. Jeez.
Throwing players on your team currently under the bus, Keon Coleman. Yeah, just a wild press conference. We didn't obviously see the entire thing because it happened while we were on air, but we were looking at some of the quotes coming out, and boy, just mind-boggling.
Not good.
The blame that was
probably looking at that like, what the heck?
Not a lot of respect there for Sean McDermott, man. Unbelievable.
Yeah, they better hope that they pick the right new head coach and that they win, because
a critical offseason here for the Bills.
Huge. I mean, because it was, the way I look at it is that it was a divorce. If you're picking Sean McDermott or Brandon Beane, they picked Beane, and they not only picked him, but gave him a promotion. And so this is a huge critical offseason for them. And I do think that as much as we talked about it throughout the year, and as much as they want to claim that they didn't want Keon Coleman, I do think adding major talent at wide receiver is a glaring, obvious need. Maybe to them, it's not the number one because they do have Josh Allen, they've got James Cook, but I think that needs to be a priority in any way you look at it. They just need, and then of course on both lines they need to hit free agency and figure out issues over there. But I think the wide receiver one is just the most, and maybe it's because we're just fantasy analysts, but that just seems to be the most glaring need that they have to go after.
Yeah, I mean, look, this receiving group is just absolutely brutal. I mean, think about it. McCole Hardman was a big factor for them down the stretch. Brandon Cooks, who they brought in week 13 at 32 years old, big player for them. So I mean, he signed Josh Palmer, Curtis Samuel. I mean, what are we doing here? Like, got to get a better receiver for sure to help Josh Allen.
I think when we look at the 49ers, obviously, you gotta bolster the pass rush. If we're talking offseason priority, it's probably not, offensively. But I think there are big questions like, what do you need a difference maker wide receiver on this team? Juwan Jennings, he wanted the contract situation. If people forgot, that was going on before the season started. Brandon Ayuk, they are certainly it looks like moving on from. Juwan Jennings is a free agent, and Ricky Pearsall doesn't stay healthy. It's any way we look at it. I know that we want to be in on Ricky Pearsall, but it's not shocking when he misses games. So I'm curious if, again, this is not the top priority, probably middle, bottom of the list for them, but that seems like one that we're going to have to pay attention to as well with the 49ers.
Really, it's about health for this team, which seems to be a problem every single year. And definitely the pass rush was a big factor. Not having Bosa was a problem because they just couldn't generate any pressure. But it seems like every year that there's always injuries, and maybe it is that plant by the facility.
Yeah, what is the electrical something or whatever? That was crazy. That got some traction.
It did.
I mean, if we want to put on the
actually.
tinfoil hat theory and just kind of think about it, I mean, maybe that's it. Or maybe, football is just a tough game.
Yeah, and sometimes it's bad luck, and guys get hurt. It's part of the game.
It's not good. Stay healthy, San Francisco 49ers, please, because we want to draft you next season. We appreciate everyone hanging out with us here today. FantasyLife.com for all those articles. GuilloteneLeagues.com to go and draft more of those guillotines. We'll be back with you same time here tomorrow.